You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. Now, the largest new media platform on the web and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AfterBuzz TV's WWE Monday Night Raw After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's WWE Monday Night Raw After Show.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, wrestling fans of all ages. Welcome to AfterBuzz TV, brought to you by Bing, where Bing is for doing, and we're here doing another AfterBuzz Raw After Show recap for the week of October 22nd. My name is Ryan GQ Money Katz, and I'm joined by my terrific tag team of broadcast brilliance, Josh Showtime Padgett and Ryan the Colonel Clum.
The Colonel.
I think I'm going to make you the Colonel Clum from now on.
Awesome.
I think it adds a little authority to your role here.
I love it.
Man, we got a big week coming into the go-home edition of WWE Monday Night Raw, setting up for this Sunday's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And to commemorate this special go-home edition, we have a very special guest on the phone. He's a former writer from WWE. He's been a promoter of his own promotion, been involved in wrestling in all facets. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Court Bauer.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Court, how you doing tonight?
Hey, man, just chilling.
Big night at TV. We've got a lot on TV. 3 hours of Raw. You got a big Monday Night Football game, the presidential debate. I mean, are you soaking it all in right now?
Yeah, after watching 3 hours of Raw, it feels like you had, Thanksgiving dinner and the tryptophan is kicked in. You're kind of in that weird zombified state where you're just kind of exhausted. It's 3 hours is a beast, man.
We've talked about it before. It's definitely true. What gives us an advantage here on the West Coast is our 3 hours starts at 5. So it's not like you go through that whole evening where you are totally drained and ready to go to bed when the episode's over. I mean, we still got regular primetime TV going on right here on the West Coast, so we get the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's the perfect way, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine actually starting at 8, ending at 11. It is a long show.
That's how I grew up on the East Coast doing that.
But 8 to 10 or 9 to 11, I guess.
9 to 11.
Yeah, it started as 1 hour, then 2, and now we're at this 3 hours with no demand for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's just, you watch a show like tonight, and I noticed, maybe it was just me, but that main event with the Lumberjacks, it seemed like the guys were kind of starting to lean against the apron. They looked tired. They looked bored. It reminded me of high school assembly. You're there physically, but you've mentally checked out until the finish when they got involved. But it was just, they seemed kind of bored.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to hear you say that, especially knowing if you're an up and coming wrestler trying to get in with WWE and you're involved in tryouts, or if you're an extra at TV, if you're leaning against the ropes or leaning on the apron, I mean, they will ream you, saying what, you're not ready for action. You're too tired to be here. You're too bored to be, they'll go after you. So it's interesting hearing you point it out. There's definitely,
and there's never been more programming for wrestling right now. I mean, you got the main event and SmackDown being shot tomorrow night.
Yeah. I mean, Saturday Morning Slam as well.
Oh my God, NXT.
Superstars.
There's a lot of WWE programming.
Doing a lot of double timing, yeah.
So Court, what was your era in time at WWE? How long were you there, and when was that going on?
I got there in 2005, right around WrestleMania 21, and stayed through until about mid-2007. So about, 2.5 years of my tour duty lasted there.
It's a good run, especially these days.
It was like in dog years. It felt like you multiply that by 7, and you really felt like it was about 14 years there.
You hear that from a lot of people, especially people who work in creative. What is it about the process that really makes time go so slow and drain on you so much?
it's probably just that you're doing it 365 and the travel and the long hours. I mean, I was brought up in wrestling by the Samoans and Gary Hart, who's a Hall of Fame booker and manager for World Class down in Texas. And, they'd work every day of the week, but they'd have like 80%, 60% of the day was theirs. And they'd go be at home, and then they just go to town and have their match, or they'd, drive maybe 100 miles that day and go to the match and then come back in the middle of the night. But they still kind of spent a lot of time doing, non-wrestling, and it kept them fresh, kept them vibrant, kept them dialed into the game. And when you're doing it 24/7, 365, and I don't care if you're the most creative person in the world, it's just exhausting. And you got holidays that Vince doesn't take off Christmas Eve, so you don't. He doesn't. He's working on Thanksgiving morning, so you're going to have a 4-hour conference call. And it gets to a point for me. It's like you just reach your threshold, and your appetite for it kind of is like, well, at the time I was like 27, I'm 28, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. I think it's time to go see what else is out there. And I had great times there, and I had some times I was like, oh my God, I need to get out of here. And a lot of people at the time, compared it to the show Lost, it's like, I just want to get off this damn island.
It's the thing that it's your dream to get there, especially, as wrestling fans, it's the pinnacle, that's the top. But you hear so many horror stories about once being there. It's like, well, maybe this isn't my dream anymore after all.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, there are 52 weeks a year. But when Court was there, it was a 2-hour show, which is 104 hours a year. And now it's 156 hours a year. If you think of a regular primetime show, it's 24 hours. It's about 24 episodes. So you're thinking of a regular show's 24 hours of writing they're doing. Now it's 150 where it was 100. That's a lot of TV to write in a year.
Yes.
It's an incredible amount to do.
I can't compare it to anything really. I mean, you're thinking about Monday show,
maybe soap opera
Tuesday
writing.
show. Yeah, soap opera.
That's it.
I mean, even then though, it's an hour a day for 5 days. You think about pay-per-view, and then you have a WrestleMania or something, and then you have a Hall of Fame. The WrestleMania show goes for. It's a very exhausting. It's a very exhausting schedule, and at no point has there ever been such a depth issue with the talent roster. I mean, I used to sit there with Dusty Rhodes in 05, 06, 07, and we just look at this sheet, this roster sheet, and just keep looking at it, hoping names would pop up. And you look at that roster then, you had guys like Eddie Guerrero and Edge, just an incredible amount of talented people. And you look at how deep it was compared to now, and you're like, well, what were we complaining about? Because now I look at that, how do you take the limited talent that's number one over, number two has experience, number three is fresh, and take those guys and stretch out a 2-hour show into a 3-hour show. I mean, we had guys like Finlay who could take a green Bobby Lashley and do this old school kind of match and do a lot of stalling and do a lot of tricks and smoke and mirrors and get a 2-segment match out of him. You don't have guys like that in there actively teaching the guys like back in the day, which really you need to groom these young kids and also be able to give them something unique to work with. I mean, Fitz works now behind the scenes again with the girls, and he's always been great at trying to find ways to present them in unique ways. But you need that. Guys need to feel different. And right now, I mean, not too many guys do. But it's a hard product. It's a hard product to chew on now. My hat goes off to anyone in the trenches. It's a tough job, and I'm just relieved my tour duty's over.
So working in creative, how much say and influence do you guys have in terms of wanting to use new guys, elevate lower card guys? Do you get to pull that? Hey, I got some great ideas for a story involving some of the lower card talent, or is it more so them, big boss man, big Vince telling you, hey, we want to focus on these guys. What do you got for them?
It's all about how you present an idea, and then you go from there. If you kind of go in there with the wrong kind of vibe, Vince will just eat you alive. There's all types. Literally, it depends how you dress and how you look, and he'll just eat you alive based on that. Or he once thought a writer looked like an alien. Literally thought he looked like an alien and had him fired the next day because it just creeped him out. So it's like, your ideas to be great, but if you look like an alien to Vince McMahon, you're gone. I mean,
presentation to the package.
It's impossible to factor into something like this when you break it down. But for me, I always try to read Vince when I got in the room. If he was in a bad mood, didn't want to hear ideas and just wanted them dictated, okay. If you wanted hear, you wanted things shaken up, or you knew that he wanted to change things up soon. Well, having a background and dialed into the Indies and having been an All Japan liaison in around 2000 to 2002, I was pretty well connected, and also in Mexico. So I remember pitching Mystico in 06. Who that now is known as Sin Cara. We wanted to bring him in then, and I kept trying to push guys, and some guys you get through, sometimes you don't, and you just kind of you just look at like the ones you get over and get in, great, and you work with that, and you're not going to be able to get them all through, but you try to be judicious and tactful and know when to pull those out and try to make a play for those guys, and I always really loved and to this day still love developing characters and cultivating talent and working with young people because they've got fresh minds, they're hungry for it, they want it, and they're a lot easier to work with in terms of coaching and giving tips to. Once guys make it, they don't want to hear it. Right. But it's great to work with those young guys. When I was there, we saw MVP come through, Ken Anderson, formerly Ken Kennedy, Bobby Lashley, Great Khali, who, of course, isn't the Shawn Michaels of that era, but, I really firmly believe in that, wrestling's like a buffet. You want a little of this, a little of that, and a little of that other thing.
Absolutely.
So I like a Fat Man. I like a Kurt Angle. I like a Shawn Michaels. I like the Samoans. I like, the Freak Show. I like the Muscle Man. I want it all. I don't want an assembly line of clones coming out of Florida like they have now, where they all have the same haircut. They all have kind of the same gear with the gold trim, and they've gotten a little bit better about it, but it doesn't harken back to when I was a kid and you had such depth and you had guys like Big Boss Man and Akeem, and yet you had Demolition and Arn Anderson and Ric Flair and Hogan. Today it's a little bit different because they all come and they learn how to do the same moves, the same psychology from the same two people. So you have 40 people learning the same thing from the same coaches, and that doesn't really make for a great show because it's just all cookie cutter.
Absolutely, and even from a visual presentation standpoint, you look at that FCW or NXT website, and when you go look at the roster, you can look at it and be like, this guy's a replacement for so-and-so, this guy's a replacement for that guy. I mean, they definitely have guys that just fit the current look of who's on air, that they can plug right back into that same position, and don't necessarily have that freshness of creative looks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and the other thing is they don't know, like, you look at some guys, they even the way they walked was different. You look at how Jake the Snake came to the ring. Mm-hmm. He differently, and those kind of things you just don't see now. Those little subtleties have been lost because, the other thing is who's teaching these guys? Who's really in the trenches teaching these guys? Are these guys that drew money or have reputations for training great talent? Yeah. And that's the other thing. I mean, that's a big issue. Yeah,
there was more go ahead.
I was going to say, Laurinaitis, when he went and set up Florida, it was kind of, everyone was like, oh, it's gonna be like a country club vibe for him. So he'd go down there and have fun with his friends, and basically that's what he did. Is he hired a lot of his boys to run it, and he sheltered everyone from really assessing what was going on down there, and that became problematic, and that's why shakeup went down.
Right. So now we all have all these complaints about the current state of the product, what should be done to make it better. I mean, you've been there before. Is there anything that can be done easily to improve the overall product, or is it kind of an is what it is situation that based on the powers that be, you just can't get the influence to make the necessary changes?
What needs to happen is you need to get rid of the creative team. You need to get rid of a department that's full of a home team and an away team that has anywhere from 10 to 12 to 14 people writing these shows. Back in the day when they were running 3 house shows a night, doing TV where they'd have to do it sometimes in one night, a whole month of booking or 6 weeks of booking, you had Pat Patterson, you had Vince McMahon, and that was it. And they did pretty good business. And you had that across the U.S. And yes, it was a different system, but it worked, and they were running 6-7 nights a week and booking different shows and recruiting talent and doing all types of transactions, and they were still they're able to pull it off. And from what Gary Hart always taught me, because he was part of the WCW booking committee, which was one of the earliest booking committees in the 89, 90 era of WCW, is that you get too many people in there and it becomes such a shark tank for politics, backstabbing, and every idea gets undercut. You never see a true idea from its conception to execution go down just as planned. So I saw that happen in WWE. I saw just the same kind of Shark Tank environment, a bunch of scorpions in a jar going at each other, and you don't really need that many guys. There's a lot of talented guys that can book, but you don't necessarily need them. You don't need people to write pre-tapes for all these people. It's so easy to do this. It's not that hard. I mean, there's a lot of great bookers out there, and there's a lot of bad bookers, but I don't think it's very hard to book this kind of show and just let talent flourish. It really isn't. You need good people like Arn Anderson and Fit to tell these guys along and get their mechanics down and polish them behind the scenes. But in terms of booking, it's very easy for this kind of stuff. So the thing I would do is break it down to a maybe 2 to 3 man squad. I would shut down the division, but that's not going to happen. And Vince isn't going to say, Steph, you've been in charge of this for 12 years, 11 years, and we've seen the ratings go in one direction, and it's constant turnover within your division, and it's underperforming, and look at our talent, look at where the company's headed. He can't do that. It's an indictment of what his heir apparent. So it's going to continue to stay this way. It might, change. It might one day we may not be a home team. It might just be one team. But you're going to probably always see some variation of this because Steph this is hers now in that regard. And I don't think she's really shown so far that she is too intuitive and can own up on a mistake. And she kind of just rides it out and keeps trying to tweak it and fiddle with it. And there's people that are fixers and people that are fiddlers, and I think she's more of a fiddler than a fixer.
Interesting. I read an interview with yours where you were actually talking about that same kind of theme as well as another, essentially where you said way too much groupthink and redundant politicking, not enough people taking initiative and standing behind their ideas. Is it possible to really stand behind your ideas, or is there too much of a fear that you're going to lose your job, you're going to piss someone off, you're going to bring heat on yourself?
Here's the thing. There's people that just want the job for the reason of, oh my God, I want to be working in WWE at this capacity. And there's people that also say, oh my God, I'm getting paid $X and I have great benefits. So why would I mess with that in this economy? And I understand that. There's other people just like to kiss ass and play the game like that. So you can be spooked by that. I always felt like it was like cracking Da Vinci's code here. How do you figure it all out? How do you figure out Vince? What is he? How do you jujitsu Vince to get what you want where he thinks he's getting what he wants? And it doesn't happen easy. It doesn't really. You have to really observe and then engage when it's the right time. You just can't go in there like a house of fire and just try to just build Rome in one day if you're a new guy. So you just have to kind of just feel the terrain and see the politics and then know when to strike and be very ruthless when you strike. So it's a ruthlessly efficient place, and so you kind of have to pick up that vibe. And there's guys I've seen that have done that and excelled. I've seen guys that just don't know when to let up on Vince, and it's done them in hard. And I've seen Vince love guys that have balls that fight him, and I've also seen Vince get really pissed off at guys that fought him, and he's bailed on them. And then there's the guys that have no backbones, and Vince doesn't really respect them.
Right. So let's transition that into tonight's episode of Raw. Let's go into the creative of what was going on tonight. You yourself said you didn't feel it was a strong go-home edition, kind of didn't make any sense, didn't push people to buy the pay-per-view. Let's have you elaborate on that a little bit. Why are you feeling that way?
I enjoyed the opening match. The tag match I thought was a fun match. I did some cool spots, and then Sin Cara kind of became irrelevant. But I thought overall it was a fine open. And then it was kind of downhill from there. There was no stories or issues that were threaded through the show, other than John Cena had some awkward business dinner with AJ, and now he's kind of getting her back. And Vince is confused by what the whole role of Vicky Guerrero is. He frankly doesn't know what it means.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of laughed about that ourselves over here when he made his own joke of not understanding the position.
What is it, management supervisor?
Managing supervisor.
Yeah, she files the TPS reports. I think it was dated reference. Wow. But I think what that was, from talking to the guys on last week's show behind the scenes, they were constantly changing that script. I mean, stuff was airing that didn't even they didn't ultimately want to air, but you're running a 3-hour show and things are changing as the show's happening. So the Paul Heyman Vince McMahon pre-tape ended up airing, and this week, you come up with something and you change the phrasing of what the title is, and the show's live, and you're just like, you're trying to keep up, and it doesn't really sound quite right. And so I think Vince sometimes, he also is a guy that always ad-libs and always goes long in his promos, probably ad-libbed on that, but it's like, yeah, what is that? What is this title? Is there someone above her? And they even speculated in commentary on that, and that's great as long as they follow up. But look, they didn't pay off that laptop gimmick for months. It felt like years, and then it was like just
it was a throwaway.
It was so lame. So, with this, there's no real, I think, long-term plan. I think they just wanted to shake things up. I don't know what they're doing with John Cena and AJ. I kind of am cringing because I don't know. Right now, I think AJ is so cold as a character, has no heat at all, that it's to put her with Cena is just it's gonna be a double negative, and I don't think it's really gonna help them. But I mean, 2 weeks from now, they could be doing a brilliant storyline. So you're only as good as the next day of TV and building that momentum. But tonight, I felt very confused about the business relationship, and then there's the little tinge of reality where you have John Cena and his divorce and all that stuff that's happened in the past. So it's like, what is going on with this?
Well, it does seem like they're going with it as they go. Like, it's just they're making it up as they go along every week. But you said that these characters that they're showing, I do still they're not like big, giant characters like we had in the 80s and early 90s. But one of the guys that stands out that's on the show is Sandow, and tonight, like he every Monday night he's showing more and more. I see the genius every time. I see Pofo. I see him every time, and I'm like, man, this guy reminds me so much of like a meaner genius. Yeah. And I love that. You were speaking about guys like from Florida, and I think like Dean Ambrose. I've fallen in love with him in the past few weeks. I didn't know much about him.
You watched some videos.
I saw the thing with Mick Foley last year, and I didn't know he was a wrestler. I thought it was like some dude. I was
legitimate.
Like, oh man, that was legit, because he never raised his voice. It wasn't like that steroid, cocaine, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior screaming type thing. It was more of like that Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
Methodical, psychological.
Like, you're going to be held accountable. You're going to be held accountable. I just kept repeating. I was like, dude, this guy's like some failed wrestler, like drunk at this event
insane.
Or something.
Yeah.
And I've seen his work. I saw his match with Regal. Guys at home, like YouTube that match with him and Regal, Dean Ambrose versus Regal. Both matches he had were awesome. I mean, just amazing. And I'm like, you got to get guys like that.
So, Court, creatively, if you're on creative, can you make suggestions for guys down in Florida, or is it more so, once again, waiting for them to say, we want to use this guy, what do you got for him?
No, we had it every which way. We were told this guy was starting literally hours before a show was going to go down, like Bobby Lashley as an example. I had known MVP prior to WWE. He actually was trying to get in the mix with my company MLW, and long story short, I didn't bring him in, which he still buries me over today, and we have a lot of fun with it. But he sent me a tape when I was at WWE, and it was incredible. He had created this persona, just totally changed his whole act, and he was under contract. He would just say, "Hey, man, take a look, and if you like it, let's go with it." And I loved it. I said, "This is incredible." I showed it to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Dusty, and Michael Hayes probably, and then I showed it to Vince. I said, "Just we're always looking for talent. What do you think of this guy? He's a free agent, so there's no issue here." And Vince thought he was great, and within 24 hours, this guy's life changed, and off to the races MVP went. So but there weren't a lot of people in creative that were really dialed in and looking to that, not to like pat myself on the back, just like they had different backgrounds. They came from writing horror TV or horror movies or writing sitcoms, so they just really didn't have an expertise in that area. So if you saw something in a guy, I always encourage other people, go for it. If you think that guy can do it, go for it. If you have something, if this guy pitched you something and you're feeling it too, if the wrestler pitches something, go for it. Champion him. And I also saw some really crazy ideas where you had people casting developmental guys in roles that just didn't make any sense, that were just these weird characters that just didn't belong in wrestling or represented that way. So, it was a mixed bag. It wasn't just one or the other. It was a lot of different things and unique, weird situations.
So being a wrestling guy who actually made it into creative, how did you feel about having non-wrestling people on the team, having these writers, soap opera writers, movie writers, whatever, sitcom writers, etc.? Did it bother you? Did it get to you, or did you really feel that there was a place for them and they brought something to the table, a skill that that some of the other guys didn't necessarily have, or was it really just a bother that they don't get what wrestling's about?
Some were very passionate, were lifelong fans, but that doesn't mean you get it. It just means you're passionate about it. And I saw some of those guys kind of emulate like their favorite angles as kids. And I found as a professional, it was something of like, I was kind of embarrassed that they would do that. I mean, they were creative people, yet they were kind of just taking the blueprint for example, there was a Tuesday night in Texas angle with Macho Man and Jake and the Snake, Elizabeth and an Undertaker where he turned face out and he saved Macho and Elizabeth from the Snake and Jake Roberts. And basically that angle was ripped off and put on a show we did because the guy happened to see it on the Macho Man DVD or something on demand or whatever. And I just said, damn. I was like, I can't believe, number one, that happened, and number two, that no one else wrote, said anything. And I'm just like, this is kind of crazy. So that I didn't have much respect for. I felt bad for the guys that just were 55 years old and didn't really have a background, but needed the gig because it paid great. And so I really would try to help them make it work, but they really it was just so foreign to them that they usually were just, they were just sunk very quickly. And there was guys that were very passionate and learned, and I thought did exceptionally well. Alex Greenfield had a big pair of balls, and the first week on the job as a lead writer, went up to the Undertaker and was like, dude, and everyone before him that was a lead writer, that was non-wrestling person would be like, they were legit intimidated by Undertaker and would not talk to him, so he never knew what was going on the show until he got to the arena and he talked to Michael Hayes or Vince. And so Alex was the guy that said, hey, if you have any questions, have any thoughts on this or whatever, I'm going to talk to you every week. I'll call you. And that guy was just like, Undertaker was like, dude, that's awesome. Thanks. And that was it. So I had a lot of respect for guys that came from Hollywood backgrounds, that had balls, that wanted to learn and owned their mistakes, and then and really quickly developed into I thought really creative powerhouses. But at the end of the day, I really still do feel that you need no more than 2 to 3 people. So whether that's 2 wrestling people and a writer, maybe that's a good situation, but you can't have, I think, the ratio flipped to 2 writers and 1 wrestler.
So I think a lot of people want to know how much of the show is actually scripted, meaning how much of it is word for word on paper, or is it more straight outline format, or is it really a script of the show?
It is a comprehensive script that can be 13 to 20 pages, and it's line by line. Sometimes the promos are written verbatim, and everything is timed, including the length of a backstage segment or an in-ring segment. It's rehearsed methodically the day of TV. It is, there's numerous drafts go out, and the WWE machine is incredible, and there's such an organizational structure there. So imagine you have that structure, you're used to it, and then in the last few years, the show begins to change rapidly, and the hours before Raw goes live, and that can really screw up the talent, can screw up the whole system because they're used to that process.
Right.
And it's hard to ever get above that. WCW didn't really. They kind of went and freeballed it back in the '90s on Nitro every week, and I guess they were just really good at it for a while, but it did ultimately catch up to them too. So WWE's had it hard with that.
If given the opportunity, would you go back and offer your creative thoughts and vibe, or is it something that you've been there, you've done that, you're happier watching it from home?
Oh, I actually spoke with them once or twice in 2010 and 2011 about the network, and I was close to doing something with them on it. But ultimately, I thought, this is not a good move for me, and and decided not to do it. And at the end, I really felt like, in terms of what I wanted to do in wrestling, I was very happy with where I left it. And there were the best of times and the worst of times. So it was good to enjoy it, to endure it. But by 27, I felt like it was important to get out because, in entertainment, if you're in your 30s, mid-30s, late 30s, and you all you have on your resume is wrestling, it's really hard to get a gig outside of wrestling. I mean, Brian Gewirtz, who was just kind of pushed out of WWE and I guess is a consultant still for them, he's in his early 40s. He's not going to be able to get a real, or probably he doesn't have a good shot of getting a outside of wrestling gig. And that's a problem,
Whereas the funny thing is, if you want to get a gig in wrestling, you're better off having a resume packed with non-wrestling stuff.
Yeah, so it's like, what does that mean, So I was happy to, and I really was interested in moving on. I wanted to get into mixed martial arts, and that's where I ended up where I ended up going right after that. So I still love wrestling, and the thing is now I get to watch it, and I don't have to watch it all the time when it's bad, but when it's great, I'll be the biggest fan and watch every episode.
So what do you think about the fact that they rushed Ryback into this CM Punk match? We have Ryback versus Punk, Hell in a Cell coming up on Sunday. Too soon? Not bad for switching things up and adding a little bit of unpredictability? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to probably expose Ryback, but it's hard to tell. I think this is probably the match where you finally cash in your chips and have Paul Heyman's involvement. With every match and everything they've done with Brock, he's never gotten physically involved. He's always been on the receiving end. He's never had any interference and affected any outcome of the matches so far in his return. And I think this might be one of those times when they have to invoke that creative that creative power there, because I don't know what else you can really do on a finish like this that unless you just have Ryback go over, which I think would be a mistake. I don't think there's anything of great significance that he's bringing to the table. He's the typical WWE monster that they push, that has the same build, the same vibe that virtually everyone since I started watching here in New York as a kid has had. I really think there's a lot of value in keeping the title on Punk riding through 2013 with the Rumble and the road to WrestleMania. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I wouldn't be I don't expect Hell in a Cell to do a great number because they really haven't pushed Hell in a Cell. I mean, this is a pay-per-view that they did not really make you feel any interest in all in the special attraction of there being a Hell in a Cell.
Very true.
And highlights, they didn't show Mankind and Undertaker. They didn't show Shawn Michaels in there. They didn't show...
and they had a longer time to build it than usual. They had like 6 weeks between the pay-per-views this time, so they had plenty of time to plan. This is an odd Hell in a Cell pay-per-view where on one of the previous Raws, we didn't see the Cell at the arena.
Right. We don't even know what matches are going to be in the Hell in the Cell. They haven't even told us what matches are Hell in a Cell matches. We have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't. For new fans, you need to see this history, the equity of the Hell in a Cell, and the damage, the Devil's Playground. We need to know that careers have been shortened by this, and the totality of the damage of this match, and no one ever leaves the same as they enter, and all that stuff that builds it. And wrestling, the key secret ingredient in making wrestling booking work is building anticipation. And I don't think there's any anticipation about getting CM Punk locked in a steel cage with Ryback. I just don't think so. I don't see it.
Playing devil's advocate a little bit, do you think that they didn't show those clips and bring up the history of the Cell because they want to bring what I'll call a secret gimmick to the Cell, something dangerous, something crazy happening with the Cell, and they don't want to build the anticipation by showing clips of Mankind going through, Shawn Michaels going off, that by not showing it, by not talking about the history of things that have happened, they can get away with a large stunt and bring it out as a surprise element instead of everyone. I remember it used to be when Hell in a Cell would happen, everyone would just assume something big's going to happen. Right. Someone's going up on top, someone's going through. But by not talking about it, does it make something special more meaningful and more impactful?
Try to make it new.
Yeah.
I think you can do that, but you still have to sell people on the concept of Hell in a Cell.
Right.
And yeah, you don't have to show the rich history, but just show the cage. Show, say it's 60 feet of steel, 800 tons of whatever.
Absolutely.
You can build the danger without saying, oh, look at that crazy stunt, and we can't top that because it's safer. We have safer working conditions. But you still can set the table, and I don't think tonight. I don't feel that they really, in their best interest, set the table for the main event, but for the undercard, like you mentioned, it just felt like it was it felt like you were building to almost just a Raw main event for next week. It was very strange.
As a fan, I do find that these pay-per-views where they're disheveled on paper, they usually come off as stronger events than the ones where on paper we have this elaborate card and it's been hyped. There's something about those underdeveloped cards that usually everyone steps it up a little bit and I think puts on a great show that's one of those wow factor kind of shows, whereas you got this well-hyped card and it's always like, it didn't meet my levels of expectations. Whereas by lowering the bar a little bit, you can get a lot higher over it. Oh,
absolutely. We had some of those type of dark horses come through, and they'd end up being pretty good shows. You're definitely motivated, and also the expectations are so much lower because, look, we don't even know what the heck is on the undercard. We know there's something with the tag titles. We know Sheamus is in the mix, and then you have the main event in Hell in a Cell, and we don't really know what else is going on, and so it's a lot of question marks there.
The big question mark, where are they going to go long term? So in your opinion, where are they going for that WrestleMania main event? What's it going to be this year?
I think you could see a few things. I think you could see, Rock versus Brock versus Cena, or you could see under that you see maybe Undertaker versus CM Punk.
See, I'm wondering if we're going to see Undertaker versus Ryback with the streak versus streak right there. Ryback gets the win over CM Punk, maintains over The Rock at the Rumble, and then you play the Taker game.
I hear also possibly Brock versus Ryback could be a possibility.
Go ahead, Court.
It depends on how Ryback develops. I mean, the next 3 to 4 months are critical to see where this guy is going, what his trajectory is. If he's a guy that can really take off and has legs, you'll know by then. If you see him kind of reach his ceiling in the next maybe the Sunday, then you'll know. But it's hard to really anticipate what they're going to do. But Ryback could be defending the title at WrestleMania. You don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I kind of think he will be, and I'm behind the Ryback machine, and I think he brings that mainstream appeal that makes the average, not diehard fan go, "Oh my God, this guy's a monster. This guy is a pro wrestler." And from a visual presentation, outlook, he looks more real deal than CM Punk. Even though CM Punk's skills are better, Ryback looks like he's one badass dude that legitimately is going to be the champion of the world.
Yeah, he looks like an ass whooper, man.
Interesting. I mean, we got big things going on in WWE. It's funny because everyone as a wrestling fan just wants to see the product get so much better. Yeah. We're all dying for it to be the product that we all want, love, and have passion for. And it just seems like every time it gets close, they do something crazy that just
pull the rug right out from under it.
They do.
Feels like, yeah.
Well, it's like watching what was the match with Justin Gabriel tonight, and
Gabriel and Cesaro. Right.
Yeah, Cesaro, and I'm like, this guy. They're nicely building Cesaro, and before you know it, they just shoot him in the knees and they have him lose. I'm like, you were getting over his finisher. He just beat the big man using his finisher, which I thought was very impressive. He's starting to gain some credibility and steam, and then you do this.
Yeah, I was shocked on this one, especially to a Justin Gabriel who really, has some potential, but nothing super star-like about it. He's got something, but he's not all the way there, not totally polished, and completely shocked that he pulled that upset victory against Cesaro. And then later in the Lumberjack match, we saw Cesaro getting fed to the wolves again when he came in the ring and took the, I think it was the brogue kick from Sheamus. So,
I mean, I have no problem with Gabriel being in the mix, but you have to do the thing where you're climbing the ladder. You just can't be a jabroni and then beat the U.S. champion, because that doesn't really do anything for the U.S. champion, and you're still a jabroni. If he starts to say he's going to break out as a singles guy, and you see him get a small little wins, then another win, he strings together enough wins, and then does that, great. Then it's credible. But does anyone really, I mean, based on WWE's track record with these kind of stop-and-go moves, believe in this? I mean, do you buy into this?
It's tough to. I'll tell you what, in watching that match and hearing Michael Cole's commentary about Gabriel, and for the last 4 weeks, I think we've heard a million times how much of a skydiving fan Justin Gabriel is. I think based on that, at WrestleMania this year, being out in the outdoor arena, Gabriel's got to skydive into the ring, man. He's got to. I mean, he's supposed to be an expert jumper. Can nail that landing. You know, they can set that up.
Land right in the
I
middle
think he
of the
needs to
ring.
land in the center of the ring. You put some GoPros on him. The new GoPros have streaming capabilities. We get some live broadcast of the flight going down. I think it's something that would. It's something that has nothing to do with wrestling that would elevate him to a level that would make people go, wow.
Would they even allow that with like the Owen Hart stuff and things from before? Would they be a little sketchy? Like, no way would we allow that to happen?
Court, what's your opinion? Would they allow something like that? Could you get can an idea like that be pitched, or is it shot down immediately?
They are very careful when it comes to stunts. I mean, like super careful. The Owen things that if you screw up and you screw up at WrestleMania in the #1 market in the world, people are not going to it's not Kansas, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is going to be a #1 big top story. So I would say the risk versus the reward. I would say I hope they don't do it.
I don't know. Also, it's something that would excite me. I like those little extra. I like that little extra showmanship. So I mean, I think it's something that elevates a guy like Gabriel, that gives him that extra something I was talking about.
Yeah, but just knowing can you imagine just coming from production and my producer head starts going, man, the insurance on that, like to have one of your talents skydive.
Into a missile drop kick.
Oh my God! Yeah.
No, you come down slow from the parachute.
Like production nightmare.
I mean, but you look at a Super Bowl and stuff. They always used to do that stuff where someone comes into the field.
Yeah, but not with the quarterback of the starting.
He's
quarterback.
not the quarterback. He's second string, man.
Okay, even if you don't put the kicker on, you don't even have the kicker do that. So.
100-yard field, 20 by 20 rings, a little different.
Yeah.
Court, anything else stand out in today's episode that you were impressed by? I know you had some things you didn't like. Anything that actually impressed you tonight?
I really did like the like I said, the opening match. I liked the Cesaro match. Just didn't like the finish.
What about Ziggler and Daniel Bryan? I thought that was match of the night.
That was another great one.
Yeah.
Another great match. I liked the amount of time they got. I think that it's great when they can have competitive matches. I think when you can spotlight those two guys in general, I think there's a lot of they're future players.
Yeah, they had some real big bumps in that match. Just Ziggler going all the way out, and that X Factor off the top rope.
X Factor was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great match. It really was. And I didn't, those are the kind of matches you can promote in advance if they should, and they should have. And I think people would have really been buzzing going into it, but just they're all cold,
I found there was more action tonight, more matches, more competitive matches, and a quicker flow to the system. We saw a lot of guys already in the ring. We didn't see elaborate long entrances, and it definitely, I felt, kept the pace a little bit faster. That made it a little bit more exciting than we've seen the last few weeks.
Yeah. I think that it also helps the writers because they're writing less. It's just blocking out segments for matches, and that's for a writer a pretty sweet proposition unless they're really feeling creative. And it's great. I mean, it's good for. I don't think if you want 3 hours of wrestling, you got 3 hours. The problem is, there's not so many guys that can do 3-segment matches unless you're Daniel Bryan and Ziggler.
Man, Bryan could work any style. I was watching Saturday Morning Slam this weekend, and he had a playful match against who was it against?
I don't know.
It may have been Justin Gabriel. I don't remember. But Bryan was so childlike. There was such a childlike playfulness to how he wrestled. It was awesome. I mean, it really was entertaining to watch.
He couldn't save the newly tag game though,
Awful
which was
segment. Awful.
Definitely the worst segment of the night.
Yeah, and I even think their pre-tape was off at the beginning of the show where they did the whole magic trick thing. It just seemed awkward.
Yeah, it did.
Kane's funny. I agree in the awkwardness, but Kane is funny in his awkwardness.
Yes, most of the time. This is just one of those times it's felt like they whiffed to me. Most of the time, he kills it. This is one of those times it's like, this is weird.
Yeah, it was off tonight with the Team Hell No. It wasn't as funny and the energy wasn't there. The charisma wasn't there as it normally is.
Well, I think the angles come into an end. We're going to see a breakup, and just based on the fish out of water, out of place nature of Kane in this comedic role, I'd love to see WWE work with Taylor Swift to shoot a remix music video of "We Are Never we'll never getting back together," whatever her song is, and just having Kane in there with it. There's something absolutely hysterical about that to me. You don't have to bring her in live for the show, but to produce a behind the scenes, wrong words, but a music video, produced video. There's something funny about that would bring in some Taylor Swift fans in an odd way. And
what do you think they're going to take the titles off them, put them on Road Scholars?
Absolutely.
I think that's where it's going.
Court, is that where you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly could go that way. I think that team has actually picked up a lot of momentum. I think the tag team division's one of the most that's basically benefited the most from this 3-hour show.
Yeah.
Before Raw went 3 hours, you didn't have any focus or priority to division. Now you have Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio. You have the Rhodes Scholars. You had Kofi and R-Truth, but they blew them up.
Primetime players.
You have the Usos, the Colognes. So you have a lot of tag teams in the mix all of a sudden, which is kind of cool. Not all of them are over, but I think you got to start somewhere and get the title over and then work backwards.
Yeah, and I got to say that it was the opening tag match, and also there was a really good tag match on SmackDown this week. That there were real tag matches where they were tagging in and out. It wasn't one tag per team, which I hate. It feels when it's just 2 singles matches. Put together. These guys were tagging in and out, working as a team, doing double team moves tonight. So I enjoyed that. It feels like their real tag team matches are starting to come back.
Yeah, cool. And that's a great thing. I'd love for more of that, because also you can mix in a guy like the Road Dogg with a younger guy, and you can get a little mileage out of that too.
Let's bring back the New Age Outlaws. I mean, when they were so over at Raw 1000, I mean, stick them back in the mix. Yeah, I know they've been really happy with Billy Gunn. Road Dogg's working there. I mean, let's. I'd love to see them back for at least a couple months.
What's old is new.
Yeah.
I think if you could cycle in some of these guys for like 3 months and cycle them out, and they, the younger talent learns from them, and then nostalgia only has a shelf life of 90 days or whatever it is, depends on the talent. Then that's great, and just keep cycling these dudes through.
From your perspective, Court, is there one guy on the roster that's being underutilized that if you were in creative, you would be, that you're sitting there, that you would get behind and give your hard push and passion to try to get this guy a more prominent role and spot? Is there anyone out there like that right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you could do a lot more with Rey Mysterio. I think you could do a much better job with Sheamus, even though he's obviously the champion, is getting pushed pretty hard. I think Del Rio has been a disaster. They haven't really presented him in the best light, and that's something that they could do a lot more with. I think Cesaro's a guy you can do a lot more character development with.
Yeah.
What do you think about Tyson Kidd? He's the guy that I always hear people say they think he could be like a major star.
Absolutely. Tyson worked for me in MLW in 2004. When he was just graduating high school, believe it or not, and and Harry Smith, his tag team partner, was studying for midterms, I think, or finals, and I named them the Stampede Bulldogs, and they went on to much bigger and better things. But always been a fan of Tyson's, and I think he's got an incredible ability in the ring. And in recent years, he's been able to really up his game on the mic, and he's just waiting in the wings, man. I think he can be money for them.
Did Tyson ever wrestle Teddy Hart for you in MLW? Did that happen?
No.
Would have loved to have seen that.
Oh, yeah. No, we had Daniel Bryan versus Teddy Hart, and that was a fun match.
Wow. Yeah, when MLW came out, it was kind of at the downfall of XPW for me, so I was definitely very aware of the product.
Gotcha.
You seemed like you were doing some great stuff down there.
Now, Court,
we had a lot of fun.
I have a question. What's your opinion on the 3-man band? Like, now, from a fan's point of view, I have no idea how these things get decided. Now, these 3 guys, are they, like, cool with each other, and they came to the writers and were like, hey, we want to, like, put a stable together? Or did writing go, we got these 3 names here, let's put them together? How does that work?
I don't know the particulars of this situation, but I've seen it vary from, let's just, the boys come to you and say, we got this crazy idea, to Vince is in a limo and someone makes a joke, and all of a sudden you have a really racist gimmick like the Mexicools coming through doing lawn work. So, it can really vary.
Wow.
Yeah, I see the 3MB. I watched them on SmackDown this week. It's so awful, but the second that my mind said to me how awful it was, I started thinking that it's going to get over time. Yeah. It's one of those things that's so bad that people are going to actually buy into
like
it a
the
little
right
bit.
to censor or something like that.
Yeah, I think people are just going to enjoy, crapping on it so much that they're actually going to get behind the group, and start giving them the heat or even start cheering them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Heath is very good. I think he's got potential. Not that he's going to be headlining WrestleMania, but I think he could do something and contribute something, and this is something somewhat meaningful for him. And I think Drew McIntyre fits well in this. I think the
Jinder's just the out of place one in the whole matter. He just
Jinder's kind of strange. I mean, with the turban, take the turban off, I'm okay. It just seems too. It's a gimmick on a gimmick, you know.
I'd agree with that. Today, when walking to the ring as the lumberjack, he actually wasn't wearing the turban today, for the first time. So
good.
I agree that's one of those things visually when they came to the ring, especially when they had coordinating outfits last week when they were looking like a rock band, but he still had his turban on. But it brings me back to my bar mitzvah because the band at my bar mitzvah were all wearing turbans when they were playing. And at the bar mitzvah with an "I Love Jesus" sticker on the keyboard. So it was a nice time.
Oh my God!
A guy with a turban and an "I Love Jesus" sticker.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's perfect
You're
place
representing across the board.
Absolutely, culturally collaborating the cultures at the big shindig. Man, well, I know it's getting late for you over there, Court. You've been watching all night. It's late on the East Coast. Where else can we hear more about you? I know you run your own podcast as well. Let's tell these listeners, viewers, where they can find more of you.
Cool. Every Monday on MLW.com, we drop a new podcast. It's hosted by Conan, the former WCW wrestler, the Lucha legend, and I jump on there once in a while, and he's also on there with St. Laurent, and we do a 90-minute show. Sometimes guests include MVP. We've had Billy Corgan. We've had Bobby Lashley. And we've been actually written up in Rolling Stone, which kind of blew me away.
Wow.
So, yes, it's a great show. It's free. MLW.com is the place to check it out. Every Monday, we're on iTunes as well.
Wrestling fans should definitely do so. They should look it up, MLW.com. Court Bauer has a great mind for the business, was able to get himself into WWE, even at a young age. How old were you when you actually broke in over there?
Well, see, I started MLW when I was probably 22.
Wow.
So 25, I guess I was at WWE,
Wow.
25 to 27, something like that.
Able to make some magic happening, continuing to do so with his podcast. What else are we going to see out of Court Bauer over the next year or so, creatively? You got any other wrestling projects, or are you moving on to something else?
Yeah, not wrestling stuff, but I'm working on some projects. Something might be on Discovery Channel soon. It's a travel across America, retro American lifestyle show. It's kind of a hipstery show. So
Very cool.
that's hopefully going to drop in the spring, and I should have some more news on that hopefully soon.
And is there a website that people can check you out to get your Twitter information, Facebook, whatever it may be?
Yeah. Go to courtbauer.com, COURTBAUER.com, like Jack Bauer.
Awesome. Well, Court, I appreciate you having you on the show. It means a lot. You definitely brought a nice insight
Thank you.
to the whole creative process, from an insider's perspective that we only speculate about. So it's been a pleasure having you, and just I wish you all the best.
Thank you, man. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
All right, we'll definitely schedule something for the future. You bring a great perspective to the table. And once again, fans, go check out his website. Go check out his podcast. Go watch and listen to more, because that's how you become a passionate wrestling fan, by absorbing information. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for this tonight, Court.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Awesome. Take care. Well, there you have it. I mean, this has been a great show so far. Yeah. AfterBuzz, we've kind of skipped over a lot of our stuff. Let's give a little live commercial, a live read about the. Go ahead, take it on this new season of AfterBuzz TV shows.
New season of AfterBuzz TV. We have about 50 new shows here, AfterBuzz, on all kinds of new, all the fall primetime.
Absolutely, and there's a ton of shows. ABC wrecking shop Sunday nights with the triple play. You got Once Upon a Time to Revenge to 666 Park Avenue.
Let's not forget The Walking Dead, the #1 show on cable right now, which has been amazing this season.
Interesting. You're bringing up the #1 show on cable, which used to be every single week, Monday Night Raw. And this past week, barely cracking the top 25, landing 1 hour, the hour 1 of last week's show, as the 25th most watched show on cable. Interesting. The week before, they didn't even rate. This is a bad time for ratings.
I thought it was 2 weeks before that.
Maybe it was 2 weeks. It was 2
weeks before, when the show that Josh said shouldn't even have been aired.
Right.
And then they came back with the Vince episode, which was strong, and then it rated again.
That's when they did the change in creative, where they fired Brian.
Brian Gewirtz.
He said his name even differently.
Yeah. And then and then we had last week, which was what I think was the worst Raw I've ever seen. possibly last week. It was,
Yeah, I mean,
it was that bad. So I'm not surprised it rated low.
It was brutal. This, however, is not brutal. The fact that we're just flowing right now. This is going to be a very long, raw recap AfterBuzz show.
I know Court didn't really love it because, and I understand because of the whole idea of selling the pay-per-view, but I at least enjoyed the show tonight.
Yeah,
it was a good wrestling show. Maybe it wasn't a good commercial for Hell in a Cell, but it was a good episode of Monday Night Raw.
Well, we'll definitely start cranking through the show, give the breakdown that everyone's looking at. We had the special guest.
I'd be interested to hear, like, the younger fans who are, like, still in school and stuff, like, what their thought were, what Court said about the characters, the wrestlers right now, how they all just look like cookie-cutter images of, like, they're clones of CM Punk almost. You see the wrestlers in FCW and stuff, tattoos, long hair, you know, that kind of thing. I'd be interested to see that because I'm trying to fight that old, you know, I grew up with Hulk Hogan, and I'm sitting there going, man, you know, I probably watch a promo from Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man like once a day, you know, get me ready for the gym. And but I try to hold that back and go, you know what, it's a different time. It's a different generation now. Do they like that stuff? You know, Cena, he seems like somebody who is a larger than life character.
Absolutely.
And like I said, like this, like Sandow tonight, like I loved him, and the Rhodes Scholars had a very convincing win opening the show, and I think there's some guys who are coming out of Florida and stuff like that that do have that it factor. But yeah, like Austin said last week, he said there's maybe 2 or 3 guys in the biz right now who really have that it factor. He even said Sheamus didn't have it.
Right, and then Sheamus responded with a very respectful tweet saying, "Hey, that's one thing about Sheamus. I think he is a classy guy.
I agree.
He is a student of the game. He is hungry to learn more, do better, become. He wants to be one of the best of all time, and he doesn't have the ego, or at least it seems that he doesn't have the ego that will hold that down. Where he already thinks he's so good.
Right.
He knows there's stuff to learn. He knows there's more to mature, you know, more maturity needed. But it's interesting. It really was a classy response. Instead of getting, you know, instead of building the Twitter war and creating the drama.
Right. I do have and I'm busting my ass to do so. And then Austin, I think, responded with a very respectful tweet back as well. Yeah.
Showtime, you brought up you want to hear her, these young fans' perspectives. Anyone listening and watching right now, please give us a call, 424-256-1729. The more interactivity we have, the more we can discuss what's going on with your opinions, your views, your vantage point, and we can actually bring a little bit more interactive discussion to the table on these after shows.
Most definitely.
Cool. Should we pump through some of these matches that we didn't talk with?
Well, I still want to bring up a couple things from that opener. Ray Cara versus Rhodes Scholars for the #1 contendership. Winners of it are going to face Team Hell No at the pay-per-view.
Right.
Just starting off, brand new T-shirt for Rey Mysterio as he walked to the ring. Cartoon vibe of the Rey body with no head, so you become the head on the shirt.
Right.
I enjoyed it. Just something simple that I noticed the little things.
Yeah, and you notice they didn't have the double mask this time.
They also came out very separate today. I didn't like that. 2 separate entrances.
Yeah.
But we did get action from the get-go on this episode. You know, Vince a couple of weeks ago talked about state of WWE is action. There was more action.
Yeah.
Unbelievable tag match. We saw a couple of great moves in this match.
Cody Rhodes.
2 teams acting like teams, too, which I got to mention.
I love the tandem laid out double jump springboard moonsault from Sin Cara where Ray kind of brought him over the ropes. I believe it was Rhodes. I don't know if it was Sandow. Maybe it was Sandow. I think it was Sandow.
Yeah, it was
brought him over the ropes, so he was balancing, and then Sin Cara hit that double jump, springboards up to one side, jumps to the other, hits the moonsault over the body.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it was Sandow. They were talking about how much bigger you could see Sandow look than the other 2 guys.
The other thing that I noticed when it came to the actual action, I don't like Ray's seated senton to the outside. I love it in the ring when he does that jump and just lands, ass on the chest and the guy goes down.
Right.
On the outside, it always looks to me like it should become a Rana, and instead the guy just kind of collapses and tumbles.
Gotcha.
Something awkward. It just doesn't come off clean to me.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it the last few weeks.
Just a
personal thing. I think a lot of people have been tweeting me and sending me messages saying I'm too kind and I'm always putting too much. I'm putting over the product too much because, hey, I'm trying to get a job. Now, so I'm trying to bring some more honesty and bring some of the stuff that I don't like to the table, to the show. So, I mean, that's something that bothered me, something that I was impressed by. The intellectual savior. Did you see the way that he broke up the count? Ray and Cara were about to get the win. I don't remember who was doing the cover, and Sandow dove under the referee's arm,
yes.
so he couldn't hit the 3 count.
I thought that was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant from the intellectual savior.
I love Sandow. He's very old school. He's trained by Killer Kowalski, and I think he brings a different type of wrestling and storytelling to that we don't see much anymore.
Now he's fresh, he's fun, he's exciting, he's intelligent. There's a lot to like about Sandow.
Yeah, and listen, and as Court was talking about, that cookie cutter system, he was in WWE for a bit. He left. He went to Puerto Rico. He traveled around the world. He really got seasoned. Then came back, and look where he's going. Right. I think this is a guy that's on his way to the top.
Championship reigns probably coming
Absolutely.
this week. He's going to carry his first bit of championship gold in WWE, and he's on the he's starting off a very successful WWE career.
And I got to say, I felt that this was a thrown together tag team of Rhodes and Sandow. Wasn't really thrilled with it at first, but these two guys have really become a team. You can tell they've taken it very seriously. They've worked really hard together to become a team, and I think it's really paying off for them.
Yeah, as Court was mentioning, previously in the interview, since the 3-hour versions of Raw, a definite bigger emphasis on tag team wrestling, and now with that emphasis, a guy like Damian Sandow has the opportunity to really shine and show that he's someone to build on in the future.
Well, guys, I'm going to let I'm going to give the opportunity to our first caller of the night.
Absolutely fantastic. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey guys, it's Adrian or Watchtower here.
Oh, it's the Watchtower. All right.
What's going on, Watchtower?
All right.
What'd you think?
I am doing good.
What'd you think of tonight's episode?
Oh no.
Ever since they went to 3 hours, it's kind of like a little boring. Granted, they built the tag team divisions a bit more, but other than that, not a lot of stuff's going on.
What kind of stuff do you want to see? What do you feel you're missing out on right now?
Better characters.
Do you got any ideas of your own of repackaging current guys, or are you a fan of knowing their minor league system, that there's guys that you want to see be brought up? What are you hoping to see?
I would like to see some of the FCW guys be called up finally. It's time to see Tyler Rex or...
Well, Tyler Rex is no longer with the company.
He means Seth Rollins, who was Tyler Black.
Tyler Black. I thought you said Tyler
No,
Rex.
he did. I'm making an assumption. I could be wrong.
Gotcha.
Also, to bring up Sarah Del Rey as well to help the Divas.
Yeah, but I think what's going to happen with Sarah Del Rey is we're not going to end up seeing her on TV anytime in the near or distant future even. I think she's being used as a utility player to improve the Divas division. And to be honest, I think she's probably really happy about the spot she's been given.
That's what I hear.
She gets to wrestle every single day. True, she may not have the crowd support that she's into, as all of us wrestlers love the energy and the feedback from the fans. But she gets to wrestle every day. She gets to influence the careers of the future superstars of tomorrow. It's interesting. I know a lot of fans would like to see her, but I think having her behind the scenes may be more beneficial to the overall product.
She's going to improve the whole division. The whole Divas division.
They talked about the fact that she's improving the men's training as well, because she happily can jump in the ring with any of the guys. She brings a huge array of wealth of knowledge of different styles, different. She's been all around the world.
Yeah.
She's not your typical diva.
Trained by Daniel Bryan, right? I believe Daniel Bryan was her original trainer.
I believe had some. I'm not positive, but I'm sure was involved in the training process.
I believe so.
What else, Watchtower? What else would you like to see?
Well, we got our next caller.
We got another caller.
Right.
We're on a roll tonight. AfterBuzz.
We're going to roll a few.
That's two more than we've had the last 2 weeks.
AfterBuzz, what you buzzing on?
Hello.
Hey, what's going on? Who's this?
It's DK Murphy.
DK Murphy. What's going on with you, DK Murphy?
You know who this is, right?
I know who this is.
Yeah, this is somebody I've had some run-ins with in the past.
You've had a history with him.
I have a very big history with Mr. Murphy over at MPW, a local wrestling league that we were both in.
Yeah, a league where I, in fact, am the maximum champion. And based on your history, it seems like at the next MPW show, I'm going to have a history as well.
Yes, I believe you are. Yeah.
As I believe I'm going to be involved in a 6-man tag team match, tagging with you and your partner to take on DK Murphy and his partner.
Who I actually pinned on Saturday night.
Oh, DK, Ryan's calling you out. He pinned you.
What up, Murph?
Well, as much as I don't really care for Mr. Morals and how he's corrupted my friends, or former friends, I should say, and really my feelings for you, I've been watching your show, and you actually have brought up a question in my own mind, which I'd like you guys to answer.
Sure.
Well, with titles going back and forth in the WWE, what do you guys feel about just title changes in general? Example, Kofi Kingston and The Miz. Really, that just sort of came out of left field with no hurrah or pizzazz into it, and now they're trying to build it up on Sunday for Hell in a Cell.
I'm wondering if they really brought that up and it happened strictly because of that kick that happened, that Trouble in Paradise that connected brutally on the face of The Miz, split Miz open, making him require stitches. I think the finish or the creation even of that main event match where Miz took on Kofi Kingston on Ion Channel.
Right.
I think that match happened strictly because of that hit.
Well, they had already announced the match before that hit.
Well, then I think that the decision came to be strictly because of that hit. I think that was an on-the-fly move.
I think they're trying to push that new show of Main Event, and if you notice, they announced that title change before the show aired.
To actually get people to tune
in tonight to see the new champion take over. So I think that actually decision was to try to push this new show. If you notice, they're putting pretty good main events on that show, really trying to push that new network.
And going, DK, back to the other part of your question in terms of feelings on title reigns, lengths of title reigns, I like that hybrid mix of, I like seeing long title reigns, but I also like the fast out of nowhere switch. I like unpredictability with my pro wrestling. It's the same that if you go watch a UFC fight, only takes one punch for the biggest upset in the world to happen. There's so many fights that happen where you're expecting a champion to dominate, and then this weak on paper undercard guy comes out, pops that. I mean, I remember when who was it that beat Matt Hughes? We're not talking UFC.
GSP. Yeah.
No, not even GSP. He was Matt Serra.
Oh, Serra beat GSP.
Yeah, so not a huge star in the UFC. And he was competitive, but nothing superstar. But then went out there, won a match out of nowhere, propelling himself into a superstardom kind of spot. I like that hybrid mix of it could happen fast, it could happen long, it could happen slow. I mean, we got a long title reign out of CM Punk right now, 300.
First one in a long time, though. There aren't enough of those.
And I personally think that title reign is going to come to an end this Sunday.
I don't. I think it's going to go at least to Royal Rumble.
I don't see it.
I tell you, I was expecting Cena to get involved tonight. They were going to say, look, some way, shape, or form that he was going to be allowed to be at least special guest referee for this Sunday, and that was going to fall all into my plan. This, to me, is the first pay-per-view since WrestleMania that has really got my mind racing, going, this actually matters. This main event between, nothing else matters in that whole pay-per-view, but the Punk Ryback match, it's like, oh my God.
It means a lot.
I agree. This sets up the direction of the state of WWE going into WrestleMania, where everyone speculated and had these beliefs of what was going to happen, or that we were going to see Rock versus Cena again, or CM Punk versus Rock, at WrestleMania. I think that this match can completely shuffle the cards.
Oh, yeah.
And can bring us the opportunity to have something totally unique, fresh, and different than what was expected in the last few months.
Or we're just going to be going where we thought it was going to be going, which is a very good possibility as well.
Yeah. DK, did we answer your question right there?
Yes, you did. We have another caller.
We are on fire tonight. Yeah. You're on the air, caller. Caller, you're on
Bring
the
it
air.
on.
Hi, hello.
Hey.
Hello,
lady.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Great.
Excellent.
Hello, ladies.
Val Venus just walked in the door.
Well, when the Valboski wants to take a phone call. No. What's going on? Who are we speaking
Sorry,
to?
what?
Who are we speaking to right now?
Jelena.
No, you're not Val Venus.
What's your name?
I can't hear you. What?
You can't hear. I'm going to try to speak slow and clearly with perfect diction and enunciation. What is your name, caller?
See, I didn't hear.
What's your name?
name. Give me
Oh, Jelly Net.
Jelly Mint?
Jelly Net.
Jelly Net.
Yes.
Jelly
All right.
Net, what's your
All right.
question?
Hi, well, someone dared me to ask on the chat if you guys think John Cena's hot.
Do we think John Cena's hot?
I am comfortable enough with my heterosexuality that I could confidently say I think John Cena's a good-looking guy.
He's a handsome guy.
I think he can be on the cover of a GQ magazine. I think he can pull it off.
Yeah, he's very being from Boston, he looks very much like the American Irish guy that you see walking.
He looks like Marky Mark.
around. Yeah,
Marky Mark's
exactly.
big brother. Like a
I
big.
think it looks good, and so does Randy Orton.
You think
she
he
likes
looks?
Randy Orton too.
She likes Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, Brodus Clay. That's a good looker, right?
Now we got three
Oh,
heterosexual.
no.
Brodus Clay on-
Not Brodus Clay. No.
But
I
think
hear
about
he'd
the
go all
fun. Absolutely. Think about the fun that Brodus Clay brings to the bedroom. I mean, you can have a
might
little
die.
dance party before starting. You guys can do the little funkadactyl shuffle or something.
Oh yeah, I bring the Funkadactyls in.
Yeah.
There you go.
Throw a little have a party. Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you for that.
Funkadactyl
thank you for that question.
Awesome. Thank you, Jelly Net. Jelly Net.
Jelly Net.
Jelly Net. Jelly donuts. You like jelly donuts?
No.
No, I'm not really big. I'm a chocolate donut guy.
Bavarian
Yeah.
creams were pretty good.
Bavarian cream is good. If you were to choose your donut place,
Dunkin' Donuts
over
all the-
Krispy Kremes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you prefer a cake donut over a.
I'm an East Coaster, so yeah, and the fact that I don't get it. Oh, we're in trouble.
And a host has wandered off the subject.
But we
blame you.
digress, and we come back to the show.
Yeah.
John Cena came out to the ring, cut a promo, talking about how his elbow is finally healthy.
Yeah.
But the fact is, he wanted to make this about Ryback and tried to start, I should say, the Feed Me More chants, which I got to be honest, the crowd wasn't really jumping on.
They weren't jumping on Cena. They were like booing Cena through most of this. They did not seem to be too into him tonight.
CM Punk then made his entrance, teasing the confrontation between Cena and Punk to the point where Punk started coming down to the ring, took his shirt off, and Heyman was there by his side.
And I love the whole Heyman, you don't fight for free, you don't fight for free. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think we saw an effective manager in a style that's very different than what we've seen out of managers in the past.
And especially for Heyman, it's a different style. I actually saw him, read an interview this weekend with him talking about that, where with Brock, he was the mouthpiece. He was always talking. With Punk, he just sits there and says, ladies and gentlemen, you're world champion, and holds up the belt, and that's all he does.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely got involved more this week. We'll talk about it later. In the main event match, when Punk came to the ring, he got involved in Punk's little "It's clobbering time" intro.
Right.
Showed him, showed him the wristwatch. What time?
Yep.
It's clobbering time. I think Heyman's having a lot of fun.
You can tell he's having a lot of fun. Like, he's having an absolute blast.
And there's a guy who was very bitter to the wrestling business. I don't know, 5 years ago, you would have asked him. He said, I am completely done for life and want nothing to do with it anymore.
But he's got to come and hang out with two of his boys. He's gotten to do all the Brock stuff, which is one of his best friends, and then Punk, and
And I got to imagine he's getting $1 million for it.
I don't know. I would think he's doing okay.
I got to imagine he's not doing it for less than 7 figures, man.
I would. Yeah, you never know.
It's great to be in that position.
Yeah.
The leverage. It's funny when you hit that superstar status or that legendary status where you have so much control over them, whereas generally speaking, they have so much control over you. A guy like Jericho, a guy like Heyman, I mean, they control the paths of their career. They can take time off. When they come back, they're coming back for big money deals on their terms. It's really cool when you see those guys because they just have that. It's that special X factor, that it factor, where they really can take control of their own career and do with their career what they want.
Yeah, and he's been great with Punk too. It's really kind of added something to this new, heel character. That now that Punk's turned heel, it's really. I think it's been amazing.
Now, during this segment, did Cena mention that he's clear to wrestle?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he is medically cleared and available. That's right. He did a little flex.
And that's why he said,
I'm
I'm good tonight, so come on down, Punk. Let's get into it right now.
Why not?
Yeah, he said, I'm going to give Ryback his chance. I'm going to let him take him on. Because Cena knows he's got other opportunities to become a champion again. But instead saying, well, let's make this about me kicking your ass tonight. Let's do it right here, right now.
Doesn't sound like a guy who's hungry for the championship.
It's because he's hungry for making people's lives better. John Cena being told he won an award from the Make-A-Wish Foundation today. This guy,
he's
I didn't read the full story on WWE.
Wishes,
and they gave him an award that they've never given out for, to show appreciation for what he's done.
Yeah, he's done more than any other celebrity ever.
I claim my benevolence, especially when it comes to my championship reign, storyline-wise, and wrestling shows. But he really is a charitable, benevolent, caring guy.
Well, he's not going to get any awards for his performances against Punk in singles matches. I did some record taking, and he has a record against Punk in singles matches of 6-4. Punk over Cena.
Interesting.
Now, if you eliminate all the bullcrap disqualification wins that Cena gets over Punk, Punk's 4-1 on Cena.
Wow.
4-1. Cena's only pinned him once, or made him tap out once. I don't know what the outcome was, but he's only beat him legitly once.
Interesting.
So that's why you don't want it.
We got a long show to get through. We started late with a great interview with Court Bauer earlier. This next match that happened was a great match. We talked about it in that interview. Cesaro versus Justin Gabriel for the U.S. Actually, the U.S. Championship was not on the line.
Not on the line.
I did not realize that until after the fact.
And there were you didn't hear this, but there were boring chants going on during this match.
I didn't think it was a boring match.
I didn't either. I enjoyed it.
Great plancha by Justin Gabriel to start it off. Catching the dive that caught Cesaro off guard on the outside.
And I guess I gotta remove or go back on my Justin Gabriel saying last week that he's the guy that I would let go. He had a great tag match on SmackDown this week, and he did really well here tonight. So I'm going to retract my statement from last week.
The big question coming out of this match is then, is Cesaro not impressing the important people in the back? Because from seeing such a great push being built for him, now we just saw him lost. We talked in the interview that he gets brogue kicked at the end of the night. This was not a good night for Antonio Cesaro.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this was just the loss here was just them trying to shake it up a little bit and trying to catch us off guard a little bit.
So I'm assuming we're gonna get an announcement this week online that for the U.S. Championship we're gonna see Justin Gabriel versus Cesaro at the pay-per-view.
And then Cesaro will win on that.
He's got to destroy him.
Yeah.
Cesaro has to come back super strong, super angry.
And pissed off, yeah.
Absolutely. There has to be something more behind him, too. I'd like to see a dubious, devious, destructive Antonio Cesaro.
Did you see SmackDown this week?
I saw parts of it.
Did you see the Cesaro where they did the bit where at the... It's where Elvis recorded the studios where Elvis recorded, and they did that little vignette, which was great. I would love them to see them doing more of those things with Cesaro, like the Mr. Perfect style vignettes to build him up.
Absolutely, and I mean, and having that match, a surprising outcome. But that's what I like. I like the unpredictable nature. There's so much predictability these last few months. Even year. I just dropped like 6 inches on my chair. Hold on, sorry about that, everybody.
It's any given Monday.
I like
you never know. Yeah, any given
Al Pacino
Monday.
should be in the movie.
Yeah, I think that's what that was. It wasn't, a deep push by Cesaro or him losing his push. It kind of felt like a let's this audience thinks they're so smart. They think they're gonna know everyone that wins. Let's throw something at them, a little twist.
Well, that was the last match of hour 1, and then going into hour 2, the commercial before hour 2, we got popped. We got a pop of something in the back when we saw the reveal of the limo containing Vince McMahon and AJ heading to the ring for the start of hour 2.
Yeah, which this is an okay segment, but it dragged a little. Like this is where the show slowed down a little bit. To me.
You call it an okay statement or an okay segment. Just referencing. I know we got a lot of YouTube viewers going on. One of our viewers on YouTube, Sanchero5, brought up the fact that maybe we should talk about the worst segment of the week. I think this AJ Vince general manager resignation, creation of a new position, for me goes into worst segment of the week. And anytime you have Vince McMahon involved in the worst segment of the week, there's an issue going on.
To me, this would be maybe the second worst segment of the week. I think the newly tag game was worse.
So the big, we'll get to that in a sec because the news coming out of this segment was that AJ has resigned as general manager, and we have now Vince McMahon names Vicky Guerrero as the managing supervisor.
And let's not forget AJ. There is allegations that she was messing around
That
with
she was
a superstar.
fraternizing with the superstars.
A superstar, yes.
You know, to me, this was a bunch of soap opera slop.
Too many people involved in
I just
it.
didn't like it. Now with the relationship stuff, it's so not wrestling.
Yeah.
No one believes these situations of the relationship. And if she's the boss, why can't she have a relationship? I don't personally see an issue there.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past. It's never come up. Is anything that?
And then you get Vicky, who has tied in with Dolph Ziggler in a questionable,
yeah.
you know.
And
I didn't like
Vicky was
anything.
fraternizing with Edge, you know, when she was general manager, wasn't she?
I'm just going to try to kick up the pace of this right now, knowing we have so much more to talk about
we
in
should
so
also
little
mention
time.
that she made the lumberjack match for the,
She
main
made the main event
in that segment
that,
as well.
That was her first decision as the managing supervisor. Next match that came up, Ryback versus The Miz. I found it interesting that Miz, when he made his ring entrance, was still announced as the IC champ, as the former IC champ. I didn't like that they announced that. Who cares? He's former. I mean, we can start talking. Everybody's a former champion on that roster.
I think they're doing that just because
it's fresh.
And also, he's wrestling. They announced this on SmackDown this week that he is wrestling Kofi at Hell in a Cell for the Intercontinental title. So I think they're, since he's still in that storyline with Kofi, they're mentioning, he's the former champ, to put that little kind of twisting the knife in.
They gave the rub to Ryback when revealing a tweet by legendary Hall of Famer Shawn Michaels claiming that he would not want to be in a cell with Ryback. I mean, I think that just puts over the fact that Ryback is scary, Ryback is intimidating, and when you put him in one of the most intimidating matches in WWE, Hell in a Cell, it's not a situation you want to be in.
And a good win for Ryback here, pushing him into it. It was a pretty dominant win over Miz, who's a pretty established star there.
I mean, you're seeing an intense, focused fortitude of this fast-rising freak of nature in Ryback, and I think Ryback's rage will roll on, and I'm making that prediction that I think Ryback's walking out of Hell in a Cell as your next WWE champion.
Woo! Man, I love Miz's acting performance walking down the ramp. I mean, I don't think it took much for him to bring that up, looking at Ryback staring at him, but
not wanting to get in the ring.
So reluctant. I was just like, oh, poor Miz. I'm right there with you, buddy.
Anyway, do you watch American Chopper at all?
I know a lot of people that work on the show, but I don't watch it that much.
Miz looks like one of the graphic designer in Paul Senior's shop. They look pretty similar. That dude's fat, but
look that up.
That's something interesting. All right, we went to a Be a Star package talking about the fact WWE's place and trying to make the world a better place. Let me give my PSA, my AfterBuzz PSA, because it's up to you, the user, the listener, the person of this world, to make the world a better place. So just be happy, be friendly, be a good person, and be a star.
All right.
Pay it forward. I like it.
Yeah. And go to iTunes.
I like it.
And also go to iTunes and rate and comment.
I'm having issues with my chair today. My leg keeps hitting my little lever, and I keep dropping in the chair. I'm looking shorter than I already am. Man, okay, we went to an Eve and Caitlyn backstage segment. Interesting development with the Divas division. We get some storyline development. I got to be honest, I actually like this one. Usually, these seem to be a lot of blow-off segments. There was a fight and a confrontation with Eve, Caitlyn, then Layla came in.
Layla got involved.
I enjoyed it. It was good. It was a nice pull-apart in the back, aggression. This one was good. Layla looked like she was trying to separate it, and then Eve kind of blindsided and pushed Layla. Layla came diving at her. This was a good segment.
No wasted time. Yeah, in and out. And it was a very good segment.
I love Eve's character. It's not so black and... I mean, we know... women like this fake women that just act like they're
we do?
I don't associate with those kind of women.
Oh, well.
We live in L.A. and Hollywood. There's nobody like that here, right?
Thing as that, right? But I really like that direction. I think they're going to have a good thing going on.
Yeah.
Sheamus then had an interview with Josh Matthews. He was putting over his brawling buddy. A lot of comedy right there. A lot of goofiness.
He loves unpredictability.
Man, why are they so small? Brawling buddies.
Yeah, the brawling buddies don't look as cool as they used to.
No,
but they talk now.
Yeah, they do talk, but it's funny because Sheamus was trying to put over the talking, but that mic didn't pick up.
He was having a little bit of trouble.
Didn't pick up anything, and then all of a sudden, as he's holding it up in the air, Big Show walks in, punches it out of his hand. Big Show told Sheamus that he better get serious.
And I like that.
Yeah.
I thought Show was very effective in this situation. He had a meanness to him. He didn't come off as the goofy giant. No. He legitimately came off as a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, like, you better get serious, kid, because I'm coming for real. There's a smile on this face.
You know what was for real? The next match. Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, buddy.
Match of the night, in my opinion. I think that was the best match of the night. There were at least three really big moves in this. There was Ziggler taking a bump all the way out, flat on his face, from inside the ring.
Oh, correct. He dove. He was Daniel Bryan was in the corner. Ziggler went for like a diving splash, so to speak. Hit his on the ring post. It went over the top to the outside.
Flat on his face.
Awesome moment. We also saw an outside the ring suplex.
Yes.
You know, where Ziggler suplexed Daniel Bryan from the inside to the outside.
The X Factor.
Off the top rope.
Off the top rope.
Crowd started in with "This is awesome" chants. You know, it's not something you hear on WWE too often nowadays. This one was awesome.
Yeah, and finished with the zigzag off the
ropes.
Second rope. Yeah.
This was solid. You know.
This almost felt like a pay-per-view match quality to me. You know, it's some really big moves, some big spots. Like these guys, it almost felt like these guys are like, let's go steal the show tonight.
Let these guys work.
Let's go steal tonight.
And then in what we constantly see in WWE is you take 2 steps forward, you take a step back. We get teased that Vicky Guerrero, as new supervising manager, has a special surprise for Team Hell No, which led to this introduction of a game show, a therapeutic game show, the Newly Tagged
and
Show.
This would definitely be my worst segment of the night.
You know, I mean, I mentioned the Vince AJ. I personally didn't like that too much, but yeah, this definitely has to be. It was just there was nothing good about it.
At least parts of the Vince AJ, like it started off okay and it just went long. This was just from the beginning a dead segment.
Yeah, I think I'm going to skip over it completely. There's nothing to really talk about at all. No. That's how bad it was. But it did set up for Big Show versus Kane, Battle of the Behemoths.
Yeah. Which I love when those two go one-on-one with each other.
Yeah, I was telling you guys a story of many years ago. I was in front row at a Raw or SmackDown show, and Kane and Big Show were having a match, and they started doing some slower-paced chain wrestling, and I started a boring chant, and they made direct eye contact with me, and I nearly relieved myself in my pants. I was scared. I was intimidated. I thought they were going to jump the rail and go after me.
And I love when these two wrestle because Kane gets to wrestle as the small man. He's always the big guy, and he can wrestle as a smaller guy. He's so athletic. He can do a lot of moves that typical big guys can't do.
Rhodes Scholars got involved in this match. Jumped in. If you can recall what the finish was.
They came out and were distracting D-Bry because Daniel Bryan was out there, and that was when Kane turned around and was like, "Oh, what are they coming down the ramp for?" And the Big Show, WMD,
bickering.
Boom, right to Kane.
Pin Kane, and then they came down and attacked Daniel Bryan while Kane was down in the ring.
Yeah, Rhodes Scholars beat the crap out of Hell No.
Yeah, it sets it up for the pay-per-view. I'm looking forward to seeing that match. We've talked about it.
There's a setup for Hell in a Cell.
They did angles that set up Hell in a Cell. They just didn't really put over the importance of the pay-per-view.
The total package, it wasn't there.
Yeah, after that we went backstage with Cena and AJ.
And Santino was in there for about 2 seconds.
Here's the interesting thing about tonight's episode. A lot of talent wasn't used tonight.
That's true.
And there was nothing about it that made us sit and say, "Oh, we miss seeing these guys." Oh, they were, focus was on, the select few so constantly that they neglected these other guys. But they had no need for a ton of guys that we've been seeing week after week. Yeah. We didn't see 3MB. We didn't see much of Santino.
We did see, and did we talk? I don't think we talked about this. The Kofi Kingston, Michael McGillicuddy match?
Oh, yeah. No, actually,
we skipped right over that, didn't we?
But that's what I felt about the match. I thought it was a throwaway match just from the get-go. I didn't think
Right. I like the fact that we had someone we don't see on TV very often, though. I mean, maybe he wasn't the right guy, but at least it was someone different.
It's hard to go say it when you're in a position like mine behind the desk and behind the mic. You work with a lot of these people. You want to be respectful, professional. Michael McGillicuddy has a ton of skills, very talented, but I just don't see it and I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know what creative can do. I don't know how he should be repackaged.
Do you repack? Is he ready to be Joe Henning yet? Or
I don't know what it is, and I think that's still going to be the same problem of why they made him McGillicuddy in the first place. They're going to put him in his dad's shadow, and that's not what they wanted to do. But he needs something. I'm not saying he doesn't have it in him.
Yeah.
I think with the right creative backing, he may be able to bring something out of him. But from what we've seen in the last couple of years, there's something missing in McGillicuddy, and I think he needs to find it.
I know he's been, and I haven't watched a lot of his recent Superstars matches and stuff on NXT, but I know he's been getting a lot of praise for his matches as of late. that he's had some really great matches. I've heard even with some of the, I think the local talent when they come in and have tryouts, he's had, I think, some matches. And
once again, a talented worker, absolutely skilled as a technician, but not bringing that charisma,
And
that X factor, that it factor to the table to elevate himself into the must-see superstar level.
Maybe he just needs to find that who he is. I mean, let's not forget the most charismatic guy ever, The Rock, when he was Rocky Maivia just a few months before, was, a guy that was almost fired.
Yeah. Actually, you saying that is a nice segue into what happens in the next match, Del Rio versus Zack Ryder. But during that match, Jim Ross talked about my spot, how a lot of the younger guys talk about that guy took my spot, this guy took my spot. And Jim Ross pretty much says it's up to you to make that spot. You want your spot, you go out there, you kick someone's butt, and you prove that you belong to be in that spot.
Absolutely.
I used to say it to all my trainees at my school all the time. There's no set number of spots on the roster. It's not like a baseball team or a football team or a basketball team where there's X amount of spots on the court and then you got X amount of people on the bench. If you're good, they're going to make a spot for you.
Yeah.
It's not that there's 40 people on each roster and you got to wait for someone to leave before someone new could be brought in. If you have something, if you have that ability to shine, they're going to bring you into the mix, give you the opportunity to run with the ball, and it's up to you as talent to take your spot, not be given a spot.
Absolutely.
We saw that match. Del Rio goes over, doesn't let go of the arm, showing a little bit of tenacity as he sets up his match against Randy Orton.
Had a neat thing where Ryder was going for the big punt, the boot to the face, and he moved out of the way. Del Rio wrapped Ryder's arm in the rope, started kicking the rope.
Yeah, I like that. I did like the way he was kicking the rope.
Cool.
Del Rio has those ups and downs, very inconsistent as a character. That there's some episodes that where you're sitting there like, I see it. This guy's got it. And then there's some episodes where you're like, he's boring and he's nothing. So, I mean,
I like him.
There's something I like about him. I've said when I've been backstage at shows, I do think he carries that aura, that air. There's a mysticism behind him that he is a larger-than-life star. He is, I don't know if he's an aristocrat, so to speak, but he is, almost Mexican wrestling royalty.
Absolutely.
And he carries himself as such. So, I mean, that's something I do like. There's a believability to who he is as a competitor.
Yeah, I was waiting for Randy Orton to come down at this, and we did not get the Viper.
It's because he's probably finishing filming 12 rounds.
I thought they were done because he's been on SmackDown the last couple weeks now.
I think they've been, it's not that they were done, but they had specific set shoot days kind of thing.
So maybe he was working today.
I think he was probably finishing up the last retakes of stunt shoots. I was reading something about him doing some more stunts.
Pickups or something.
Yeah, absolutely. We went to a Vicky and Cena promo where Vicky says that she costed him the match. I don't know. It's cost, Vicky. It's cost, not costed. We had an interview with Dolph Ziggler. He got his chance to talk on the mic a little bit, show that he's got some speaking abilities. I have a feeling with this new managing supervisor of Raw position of Vicky Guerrero, we're going to see that split in separation between Vicky and Dolph Ziggler, and he's going to have to prove himself as a one-man show, as a singles competitor.
I think he can do it.
It's about time.
And prove his worth.
I think the guy can talk. He can work. I think he's. I know you're not quite sure if he can be that top star, but I think he can be.
Yeah,
or at least a top, a guy that you can plug into there. I see him as a Kurt Hennig.
I love Ziggler. I think he's a phenomenal talent, but I don't think he's a face of the company talent.
Yeah.
I think he becomes the company workhorse in that he is the utility player that can make anybody look good, can look good himself, making other people look good. But the minute that they put that championship belt around his waist, and we'll see, I could eat my own, my words and put my foot in my mouth.
But there's also top guy. It doesn't mean he can't be a top guy. I mean, Triple H was a guy like that. He wasn't the face of the company, but still a legend, a Hall of Famer, definitely first ballot Hall of Famer. One of the top three guys of one of the toughest eras.
Ziggler's good. Ziggler's a ravishing Rick Rude. He's a Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. He is one of those top guys who everyone respects, likes, and enjoys watching. I just don't see him as
the number one.
As the number one.
But he could be a top 5, easy, a top 3 possibly.
Yes.
But he's not going to be John Cena.
His abilities, I mean, his abilities speak for themselves.
But you have one face of the company every 7, 8, 10 years.
It's Ryback, baby. It's Ryback.
So that's probably that very possibly could be.
He's the new face. Went to Heyman and Punk backstage, talking more about disrespect, setting up the main event, Sheamus versus Punk, lumberjack match. Let's watch Showtime over there. You love doing it.
More.
All of AfterBuzz. Here we go. Feed me more. And I can't do the facial twitches and stuff.
Doesn't he go one arm and then that one?
He does a lot of stuff.
He does the head bob.
Great lumberjack match. Where we saw a spine-splintering superplex of sorts. I mean, we saw some big moves in this match. Yeah. Definitely close to a pay-per-view quality, Sheamus versus Punk. But it was Ryback who came out at the end to say...
Right, and don't forget, the ending was cool with the Big Show choke slam with the referee getting distracted.
Absolutely.
He came in the one-arm choke slam to give Punk the win.
Yeah, Punk gets the win with the help of Big Show. Which leads to Ryback coming down to close the episode.
Wow, he was throwing Punk around like a rag doll.
And the Lumberjacks throwing him back in for more.
Oh, man.
Feeding him Punk more.
Which brings us to this Sunday, Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, main event, CM Punk versus Ryback for the WWE Championship. I've said it multiple times this episode. Ryback's walking with the championship.
And I've said it before, they are not going to take that belt off CM Punk. They are not going to sacrifice Royal Rumble pay-per-view buys because Punk Rock, that sells
It's not
way
as
more.
big as you think. I don't think so. I think Ryback versus Ryback winning the championship, setting up Ryback versus Rock at the Royal Rumble, which then sets up Ryback versus Taker for the Streak main event. That's what I say is happening. I'll give it to you right now. As the music's coming on, I'm going to talk faster.
I got to say quickly, too, that I think Big Show is going to win the title, and Dolph Ziggler's going to cash in less than 45 seconds, and we're going to have that whole thing playing out again.
Unpredictability is the word of the day because we do not know where the landscape of WWE will fall going into and coming out of this pay-per-view.
Lesnar, please show up Sunday and interfere. Help Punk. I want to see Lesnar and Ryback. That's the match I want to see.
Man, it seems we could talk forever, but as you hear with the music, we are out of time. I don't know if you could throw the picture up on the screen as we go off the air, because there's a great picture I brought along of me just pre-match in my championship match this weekend. But ladies and gentlemen, there it is. The champ's just chilling in the back. GQ. My name is Ryan GQ Money Katz. I'm joined by Ryan, the Colonel Clum, and Josh Showtime Padgett. This has been your AfterBuzz recap show for Monday Night Raw, the week of October 22nd. You know, that's what's going on with the AfterBuzz.
We'll be back next week.
Next week, baby.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.